Do you believe that because you have God in your corner as a business owner, that success is going to come easily? Or maybe you're on the other end of the spectrum and you think that your faith is actually maybe going to prevent you from finding the success that you want. Well, either way, this episode is for you. So, over on the TSA Weekly this week, we're talking about romanticizing the idea of being a business owner. And here on Faith and Focus, I, of course, wanted to take this to the side of being a Christian business owner. Are we romanticizing the idea of being a Christian business owner and having God in our corner? So, if you think that having God on your side here is going to make your business easier, then this might be a bit of a wake up call for you. But regardless of what your expectation is going into this episode, I hope you come out of it encouraged and hopeful about your future. But before we dive into this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss a tutorial or upload. Okay, so like always, we're going to be diving into the word in this episode, and I hope that you will grab your physical Bible as well. I just started doing that in the last episode, and there's just something about having the actual book in my hands versus reading it off of a screen, whether it's your phone or your computer or whatever, that I just kind of love. So if you have a physical Bible, just pause for a second, go grab it so that you can follow along with me. I am always going to put the passage on the screen so that you know what we're reading. And I'll make sure that those words are going by at the bottom as well while I'm reading the word. But it's always best if you can be looking at it for yourself as well and reading along with me. But either way, it is time for our reality check right now. And I say our because I absolutely include myself in this. Just because I am the one saying these things does not mean that these are not things I don't struggle with. I absolutely do. But what I want to talk about up front here is just this concept of, because God is on our side, because God maybe inspired your business, or because he is guiding you in your business, that means it's going to be easy. Honestly, I think it's the opposite. And I don't mean to say that finding success in your business is going to be hard just because you're a Christian and you're bringing your faith into your business, but it's not going to be what we expect, right? It's not going to just follow the path that we've designed. It's hard primarily because of the fact that you have our own plan and path for our business. We have our own ideas. And as the business owner, as the solopreneur, if you're a solo business owner, in theory, you are the only decider. You are the only person who's actually steering the business, right? But when you are a Christian business owner and you bring God alongside you as kind of that silent partner, if you will, well, then now there are two opinions and two people guiding that business. And honestly, they're not always going to be aligned. And I think that's what makes it hard for me, at least, is that, I have a vision of what I want my business to be, and God has his vision of what my business is meant to be. And the idea of me letting go of control of that business to him, letting go of the reins, letting him take the wheel, however you want to say that, whatever metaphor you like, it's hard because entrepreneurs in general, we kind of tend to have a little bit of a controlling personality, right? We like to be in charge. We like to be the one making the decisions. That's why we're the business owner. So then relinquishing that control to God and allowing him to direct and guide our business automatically creates friction. And it's going to create roadblocks and challenges for us. It would be nice if we could sit down and have like board meetings with God on a regular basis where he could just lay out, okay, here's where I'm taking you. Here's the plan. Go in this direction. And then honestly, I feel like if that were the case, we probably wouldn't hit many roadblocks at all. But when we come up against those major roadblocks, at least for myself, it tends to be when I am going in a direction that is not where God is leading me. Not that it's bad. I'm not saying that at all. It's not that our ideas and our direction are bad. It's just probably too small. We're thinking too small. We want to create a certain thing because we don't realize this massive thing that God has in plan for us if we would only let go and let him take charge. This is something that I'm struggling with right now, or have been struggling with the Tech Savvy Academy, because I've got my Trello side of my business and that is booming and going really well. And that was something that was completely unexpected, totally God-led. But my TSA, the core thing that I started with my Tech Savvy Academy, I wanted to create a certain type of community for solo business owners, specifically women. And I had this picture of what that was going to look like. And as I got women in that academy and I started getting their feedback and all of that, I started realizing, okay, well, maybe my vision wasn't exactly what they were needing. And so I started trying to shift that. But then even shifting that and following their feedback, not only was it not growing or flourishing in the way that I wanted, I felt like basing it on their feedback was actually taking us backwards. Things were becoming even less engaged and less what I wanted, less successful. And, I've been feeling this tugging over here, this tugging at my heart that I know was God to bring my faith into what I was trying to build into that business. And that's why, I don't remember if I've said this here on this podcast. I've said it somewhere, but I have decided to close down what I had created in that part of my business because I don't think it was the direction that God was leading. And could I have just shifted what I was doing and let people kind of opt themselves out if that wasn't what they were looking for? Yes, absolutely. But the reason I decided to make a total clean break from that and start something fresh is because I am actually trying to listen to what God's leading is here and not try to conform my idea into something that I think is closer to what he wanted, right? I can tell he is telling me to bring faith into that part of the business, but I am just taking a clean break, stepping away from, and just saying, okay, God, I'm not going to try to direct this at all. You show me, bring the right things to me, show me what you're trying to have me build, and I will be obedient and I will build it. But that meant having to shut down something that I really, really was passionate about and I really wanted. That makes being a Christian business owner so much harder for me right now because I'm having to let go of my vision for my business and open myself up to his. And I feel like, and I believe that he has something huge right around the corner. And that's why I'm doing this. And so I want to just encourage you that when you're coming up against friction, whether it's an area of success that you're just not achieving for whatever reason, you're hitting roadblocks the way that I am, even when you try to pivot and shift based on market research or customer feedback or whatever, you're trying to do all the things that you are supposed to do and that, business world tells you to do, and yet you're still hitting these roadblocks. It's not about God being there to just smash the roadblocks. He is not trying to remove challenges. He's trying to reframe them. He's trying to show us, he's trying to show you that, yeah, you have a challenge here because this is not the direction that you're meant to be going in. So take the step back. If you need to close something down like I am, do it. I mean, I'm not saying that this has totally worked out for me yet, but the peace that I feel right now, shutting that down and opening myself up to where he's leading, is unlike anything I have felt before. We're going to get to a verse about that, obviously, in a minute, but I don't know where he's leading. And that's actually more exciting than what I was trying to do. And I was slogging through the swamp. I was going uphill barefoot in the snow, right? I was just working so hard to try to make something happen. But because it's not the thing that I'm supposed to be building, it just wasn't happening. And I was so frustrated and so not peaceful about it, right? And so the verse that I want to kind of incorporate here is actually from John. It's John 16, verse 33. And the context here is that this is when Jesus is telling the disciples, basically, I mean, he doesn't spell it out completely, but he's basically telling them that he's about to go be sacrificed on the cross to save me, to save you, to save them. He's about to do that, and he's about to leave them completely on their own. And he knows that things are only getting started for them. Things are going to be amazing for them, but things are also going to get a whole lot worse for them. That is the context of where this verse comes from and, why Jesus is saying this to them in this particular moment. But again, it's John 16, verse 33. And he says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So he's telling us, exactly what I just said, that that peace that I'm feeling is because I'm finally listening. it's not because I have any idea where this is going. It's not because I have things all figured out. In fact, I'm incredibly discouraged because this thing that was my passion project, it was where my heart was at, is failing, right? I see it as a failure. And so, yeah, that's discouraging. But at the same time, I am so peaceful and so excited because I know that I don't have to be the one to figure out how this is meant to be. I don't have to be the one to figure out what comes next. I just have to be open and I just have to listen and be obedient. That part is not easy, but it still doesn't take away from the peace because I know that if I'm paying attention, God is going to guide this, right? And so it gives me so much peace. And yeah, going into something that is more faith-based is probably going to bring even more trouble and more difficulty to me. I could lose clients in other ways because I'm leaning into that faith side of things. And to be honest, like probably most of the people who were in my academy before will not be interested in that version of the academy. I know that. So I am completely walking away from that potential future income. But at the same time, I have peace about it because I know that God is leading me in the direction towards the success that He wants, which honestly might not look like success here on earth. It might not. It might not mean something that even brings me income into my business at all. It might be that God is telling me that, hey, this thing that you've been trying to build, it's not your business, it's your ministry, right? And we talked about this last season, I think, about this idea of, are we trying to monetize our ministry? And I might be doing that. I might have been doing that by creating something in a more secular way. Maybe this is supposed to be my ministry. So I'm trying to be open to all of that and just remember and recognize that success here on earth, success that I'm expecting, is not necessarily the definition of success that God is working with, right? And staying open to that. So the second aspect of this I want to talk about, besides just the fact that, God's not going to clear all the roadblocks, that's not what He's here to do. I want to talk about prayer in our business because there is a very easy tendency for us to look at prayer for our business as a wish list, right? Like we go to God like He's the genie and say, okay, God, I want this, 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 and this. I want to, be able to retire myself from the corporate world. I want to be able to, see this level of success and have this level of income by this day, and we kind of like spout off the checklist of all the things that we want God to do. And we're like, okay, God, here you go, make it happen. And I think, it's so easy for us to do that. But when we do that, obviously we're missing the point. We're totally missing the point. In fact, in a way, we're kind of potentially heading into some dangerous territory when we do that, because that sounds to me a lot like this secular concept of manifestation. And that is something that, I have so many feelings and thoughts about. And if you guys do too, maybe I'll do a whole episode on that. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in just like talking about the difference there. Because the word manifestation, we find that, in biblical senses, but not at all in the way that it's being used in the secular world and in the business world right now. This idea of putting something out there into the universe and it will just come back to you. There are so many layers of wrong about that. Obviously, in the concept of The Secret, which I have not read, and I'm going to be fully upfront about that. I have not read The Secret because I have no desire to get sucked into all of that. But all of the things, all the content that I have seen, all the articles I've seen about it, the concept that I understand from The Secret is a very much like kind of new agey and I don't even know the right terminology that I want to use there, but like basically that your responsibility is no longer there, that you don't have to put in the work by just saying the thing every day or thinking the thing or, speaking what it is that you want, that it's going to come to you, that you're going to receive it in some fashion. And I have so many issues with that on just the level of practicality of, okay, even if that's true, I mean, I absolutely see the benefit of things like, you need to speak your goals and, that accountability aspect, right, of saying it out loud to say, this is what I'm working towards and whatever, because I think that does hold power for us, but it doesn't take away our responsibility to earn it. It doesn't take away our responsibility to work for it. So on the practical level, that's a major issue I have with that concept of manifestation. But I know there are some people out there who say, okay, but I don't believe in manifestation like that. I believe that, I still have to work for it, but still, if I put it out there in the world and I put in the work, then I'm going to achieve that thing, right? They see that as some sort of guarantee simply because they're manifesting it in that way. And I think when we treat prayer as a wish list, we are absolutely doing that. And it's one of those things that it's a nice thought, right? It's a nice thought to say that if I just speak my goal and I work for it, then I'm going to get it. And that's what God wants for me because God wants me to succeed and God wants me to be happy. And yes, God wants you to succeed and God wants you to be happy. But his definitions of success and happiness are not necessarily the same as ours. So you may not achieve that thing. You may not succeed in that way. But if we're listening, if we're paying attention, we may succeed in such a bigger way and find a completely different level of happiness than we could possibly imagine. So treating prayer as though it's a wish list that we are just handing to God and saying, okay, God, here's the checklist. Here's all the things that we're going to accomplish together this year. I will do my part. You do your part. And this is where we're going to end up at the end of the year. Totally missing it, guys, if that's what you're doing. And again, no judgment here. This is a judgment-free zone because I absolutely have done this in the past. I've done this many times and I will probably do it again in the future. But this is the reality, right? Is that it is not a wish list. And so if you are not including the vital component of, Lord, if it's your will, and it's not just about saying the words, you got to mean them too. And that's the hardest part. Yes, we should speak to God what it is that we want, what we are working towards, what we, the goals that we have, the dreams that we have. But if we don't include and mean the component of, if this is your will, if this is the direction that you're trying to take me, please let this happen. Please guide me towards this success or this outcome, whatever it is. If we don't include that aspect of it, then we are absolutely heading into that manifestation territory. So just something to be aware of and something to remember that it is a daily reminder for us that, yes, this is the direction we're trying to head in, but we are not in control. We are not in charge. Yes, we're in control of how we show up, but we're not in control of the outcomes. And even the secular world talks about that in the business aspect, right? There are certain things you control and certain things that you don't. And the outcomes are the things that you don't. That's true for us too. We just need to remind ourselves that just because we have God and we're praying to him for those outcomes doesn't make us any more in control of them happening. We need to stay open to his will, and that means listening for it. And that's where our daily routine of devotionals, spending time in the word and actually praying and then being quiet and listening to what God is trying to tell you. I just did this morning, actually. So locally here, myself and another woman that I met actually in a Christian business owners group here in Idaho, we are trying to answer God's call for both of us right now to create some Bible studies in the area. We're building out this whole directory of Bible studies in our valley and all of that. We're working on that right now. It's really exciting and it's really cool to see what God is doing there. But the Bible study that I am wanting to host and facilitate, I was wanting it to be on Saturday mornings. I was like, that's going to be the easiest for me. It doesn't get mixed in with any of my, work and all of that. It'll be so much easier for me to do that. But then as we're seeing the interest come in, and I'm seeing the types of people who would most likely be interested in my study, I'm realizing not one of them has said that Saturday would be a good day for them. Well, that tells me something. I need to be more flexible. So this morning I was praying about that and I was just like, God, okay, I know that's what's best for me, but help me. I know I can't make it perfect for everyone. I know that, but there's obviously a better day and time than Saturday mornings. So, please let me know. And, I'm not saying it always happens like this because it absolutely does not. But as soon as I got quiet and I opened myself up to, God, let me know. I can't even tell you how specifically Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. just popped into my mind. I was like, oh, got it. So I don't know. Maybe that's because a very specific person, that's going to be a good day and time for them. And they're somebody that needs to be in that Bible study. I don't know. Like I said, it is not always that obvious. We don't always get that quick of a response. But this morning I did. And only because I opened myself up and listened. If I didn't quiet my mind and shut my mouth for a second to hear what he was trying to tell me, I wouldn't have heard that. So it's just a reminder that even in stuff like that, it's not about my plans and my will. It's about God's will. So we're going to look at Romans really quick here. This is a very popular verse, but we're going to go a little bit further than what most people know. Most people know Romans 8:28. We're going to read that, but we're also going to go a little bit further because we want to see that, even when things aren't going our way, even when things aren't happening the way that we expect or we plan or we want, God is at work. In fact, he's more at work in those times. So now I'm actually really excited about Wednesdays from 6 to 8 because God's going to do something there. I don't know what it is, but he's going to do something there. But let's go ahead and look at Romans 8:28 through 30 is what we're going to read here. I'm in the NIV here, but feel free to read along in whatever version you prefer. But it says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose," which, side note, is all of us. We're all called according to his purpose. "For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified." And what this is showing us, what this is telling us, that whole list of he called, he predestined, he justified, he glorified, this is showing us God's sovereignty over all of this. It's showing us he has a plan. He knew that he needed to justify us. He needed to send his Son to die on the cross for us so that we could be worthy, so that we could be justified, we could be pardoned, so that then we can be glorified and raised up next to him after we are done here on this earth, whatever that looks like, whether it's when we die or if the rapture is coming soon, I don't know, whatever. But however that happens, he has a sovereign plan. He knows how the story ends, guys. He's not winging it and just trying to put the pieces together. He knows exactly how the story ends. And this verse is showing us that. So let's kind of lean into this idea of how important prayer is. So I was talking just a second ago about how, in order to hear God's will and make sure that we are following his path instead of our own, we need to spend time in the word. We need to be doing all of that. But we also need to be praying. Spending time in his word is absolutely important, and it is absolutely the primary thing we need to do. It is how he speaks to us in a lot of ways. But at the same time, we need to be spending time in prayer kind of constantly. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's often a stream of consciousness of just constant prayer in my mind. It's not always at the forefront. It's not always conscious prayer. Obviously, when I'm focused on something else, I don't realize that I'm necessarily praying. But when you start to foster that level of connection and relationship with God, everything kind of turns into a prayer. It's almost like every thought is part of a prayer, right? It's a continuous thing. And this is something that we are commanded to do in a very specific way. So we're going to be looking at 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and we're going to be starting verse 16. We're just doing verse 16 through 18. And he says, "Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." Couldn't be more clear, guys. This is, if you're a business owner, you're probably a fan of checklists in some fashion. Here's your checklist. Rejoice always, pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances. If you can check off those boxes every day, you're headed in a good direction, right? Doesn't mean any of this is easy. Rejoicing when an area of your business that was your passion is failing the way that mine is, that is not easy. But because I'm excited about the direction I think he's taking me, yeah, I am rejoicing in it because I'm letting go of something that's dragging me down and that isn't ultimately serving the people I wanted to serve anyway. I'm rejoicing in the fact that that is moving on. That is going away, dropping off of me. I'm getting rid of that burden. I'm praying continually because I have no idea where to go next. And so I'm constantly in prayer about, well, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Should I do that? Should I just be waiting until you show me? What am I supposed to be doing? I'm praying continually. And I'm giving thanks in all circumstances. I'm giving thanks that God is clearly showing me that I need to shut the door on that rather than me sitting on the struggle bus for the next year, 2 years, trying to make something happen that's not even where I'm supposed to end up anyway. Because you know what would be worse for me is if that was super successful and yet I still felt God tugging me into that more faith-filled direction. Because then I would have to walk away from something that was super successful and shut that down. I would have to sacrifice that in order to head in the direction he wants. I am so thankful that he was so clear with me by making that just not go the way I expected at all, so that I don't feel like it's a sacrifice. It feels more like a relief, even though I'm going to miss working with those ladies, right? It feels like a relief. It feels like the right thing. And so I'm grateful for the fact that God made that so clear to me, rather than putting me in a situation where I had to give up something that felt so successful and go in such a counterintuitive way. So I'm so grateful for that. So I just want to close here with some encouragement, because I know there might have been some hard truths in this episode. They certainly are hard for me. So I don't want to leave you feeling so discouraged, like, oh, I'm just doing everything wrong. I just want to encourage and give you hope for the future, and also give you a little bit of a challenge here to help you start moving more in this direction as well. But let me just tell you guys, you don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have any of this figured out right now, but I know that I'm not alone. And that is more reassuring and more encouraging, and gives me more hope than if I had a full plan in front of me of what I was going to do next. It is so much more reassuring to me, and I hope it will be for you, knowing that God is in control and that he is here with you, that you are not alone. So yeah, you might have been romanticizing that God's presence in your business was going to make everything easy, and it's definitely not. But it absolutely means that you are not alone on this journey. And as a solo business owner, that is the hardest part, is the loneliness and the feeling like you have nobody to lean on. We absolutely have that. So I'm going to leave you with a couple more verses, just hopefully to encourage you in this. And then also with that challenge of something that you can be doing this week, every single day, so you can start moving your business and become more aligned with God's will for your business. So the verses I'm going to leave you with, these are probably going to be really familiar to you because they're pretty well known. But we're going to go to James chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 2 through 4. It says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." And then the last verse that I want to look at with you is from Proverbs. Oh, sorry if that was loud. I hit the mic with my hand. Anyways, Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." So what I want to invite you guys to do this week, alongside me, I'm doing this as well, is choose one practice this week. Don't try to add everything all at once, but choose just one thing to start doing this week. And if you're already doing some of this, then find something else that you can bring in and add on top of it, whether it's spending daily time in the Word, spending daily time in prayer, setting aside time in your prayer to be quiet and listen, or just being more open to what God is saying and more obedient to listening to those little tugs that you feel when you are listening to God. And if you feel like you're already doing all of those things, fantastic. Think of something else that you can add into all of this that's going to just bring maybe your relationship with God deeper. Maybe you spend longer in the Word or when you're praying or whatever that might be. Just be intentional about it, okay? Put it into your routine, put it on your calendar, however you stay on top of all of your tasks for the day. Don't just say, oh yeah, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Add it to your routine. Be super intentional about it. And guys, God is going to bless that. And I would love to hear what you're going to be adding into your week this week. So let me know in the comments. I hope that this episode inspired and encouraged you. And if it did, please share it with a fellow Christian business owner who might need the same encouragement. Thanks for being here, and God bless.